What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another roster bubble video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Also share this out. Once again, we are wrapping up the series very shortly here, so I appreciate everyone who stuck in through the month and a half that we have been doing this. Outside fan bases, Giant fans, whoever that want to learn about different players and different guys that are cut off rosters and stuff like that. Once again, we appreciate you all. We're also about 10 subscribers away from the 1.5K mark, so let's get there. Anyway, another roster bubble video here for you guys. What do I do in these roster bubble videos, you ask? I take a player that's on the cusp of being cut. I talk about their background. I talk about their competition. I talk about how they could win a spot on the roster, how they could lose a spot on the roster, and a prediction at the end. But before we get into our profile today, also known as Brandin Bryant, a defensive lineman, for the first time in the history of the channel that's been running 3 long years and over 1.4K subs strong, we have an official sponsor. Yes, that is the Ticket Vendors, also known as SeatGeek. Looking to go to a concert, a Giants game, a ball game in general. Now you can go with our help, get $20 off your entire order with the promo code Big Blue in the Bronx. That's Big Blue in the Bronx, nothing abbreviated, just the channel name, all in one, and you can plug it into SeatGeek. So Brandin Bryant is our profile today, and let's take a look into him. He's 29 years old, 6'2", 305 pounds, out of Florida Atlantic in 2016, and he's been around in the NFL, and he does have familiarity with the Bills. Brian Dable obviously was on a totally different side of the football in 2020 and 2021 with the Bills. Same thing with Bobby Johnson, but Joe Shane, obviously in that front office, he was scouting different guys, and they did sign him after all. So to go back all the way to 2016, he signed with the Seattle Seahawks as an undrafted free agent. Then was with the Jets for a little bit, for about a year. Then didn't play for anyone in 17. 2018 went to the CFL with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Stayed in the CFL for the next year with the Montreal Alouettes. Then to the Browns in 2019. To the Dolphins in 2020. To the Bills from 2020 to 2022. To the Texans, and then back on the Bills in 2022, and the Giants decided to sign him on July 24th to add some bulk to that defensive line. I think that was around the same time they started putting guys on PUP like DJ Davidson and the other cats as well, like A'Shawn Robinson. So let's dig into his career. It's not that much experience. You think a guy from 2016, he's got a lot of games under his belt, whatever. Not really. 11 games in total of 4 years played. Other years, like 16, 17, 18, he was on the practice squad for different units and never got to see the field. So his debut was actually in 2019 with the Cleveland Browns, where he played 4 games, 3 tackles. That's that. 2020 with the Bills, 1 game, 1 tackle. 2021, 2 games, 2 tackles, 1 quarterback hit. And then 2022, 4 games, 3 tackles. That's that. So no sacks in his career, no tackles for a loss, actually 1 quarterback hit with Buffalo. No batted passes, nothing like that. So also to go down to the snap count, he played 33% of the snaps in the 4 games he played in last year. The year before that, 23% of the snaps in 2 games in 21, 11% of the snaps in the 1 game he played in 2020, and then 17% of the snaps in the 4 games he played in 2019 with the Cleveland Browns. So all around, this guy hasn't done a lot in his NFL career as an undrafted free agent. That's obviously what you can see. And he's trying to make the roster or the practice squad as a backup defensive lineman. What he did against the Lions, I thought he played solid, not Dexter Lawrence level. I don't think he played as well as Jordan Riley. There were other guys that he's competing with that I thought made some better plays on certain occasions, but I thought he played okay. 4 tackles and 1 pressure versus the Detroit Lions. What is his competition looking like? Well, Donovan Jeter, who we talked about in the last Roster Bubble Series video, that's 1. Kevin Atkins, who I believe played in the XFL for a little bit, Also was with Fresno State, the Niners. We'll talk about him in another video. Jordan Riley, been with a couple of different colleges, 7th-round pick of the Giants. DJ Davidson, Ryder Anderson, both defensive linemen on the PUP, so they're not actively competing. And Kobe Smith, who is a guy that really hasn't seen the NFL field in a regular season game much either. Bucks, Eagles, I think that's it in terms of teams. So he's kind of like Brandin Bryant himself. But right now, in my personal opinion, before we go into the how he can win, how he can lose, that can be a little simpletonish because this guy really hasn't gotten a lot of burn at the NFL level in regular season games. But I think behind Jordan Riley and the 4 defensive linemen you can already count as locks pending injury, which is Nacho, Lawrence, Williams, and A'Shawn Robinson. Then you have Riley. I think, honestly, Brandin Bryant is a guy that if one of those guys goes down, he's going to be called up and he's going to be making the roster. Or they go to somebody else on the waiver wire, which they might do, they may not do, or whatever the situation may be. But that also may not say a lot of good things about Brandin Bryant because he's only played in 11 games in his NFL career. But they can value that how they want to value that, so on and so forth. How can he win? Override competition in one-on-ones and defend the run. Defending the run is just going to be what he does. He had a couple of run stops for Buffalo between 2020 and 2022, nothing for the Browns in 2019, but he's more athletic, at least from what I've seen in the film room with Buffalo, a little bit with the Giants against the Lions. He's more athletic than his weight says and some of the other guys in the room, but that doesn't mean that he always makes plays. He'll get out and recognize whether it's a screen or a run play, but he will get blocked up, of course. I mean, he's played 11 games in his NFL career. He's not a starting level player, and it's hard to justify whether he's a backup level player. He might be a backup of the backups, but how he can win a spot, override competition, 1v1s, defend the run, and also see if somebody gets injured. Not hope for it, but see if somebody gets injured, and if that happens, play your ass off, because this could be the final ride for Brandin Bryant. This could be his final opportunity to get a spot in the NFL before moving on to another venture in his career, or the CFL, or the XFL, or the USFL. There's a lot of different leagues, or maybe even, what's the other league? Arena football or fan control football. There's a shit ton of leagues, but obviously your dream is to play in the NFL, not an independent league. How can he lose? Avoid getting washed up by the run. If he gets washed up by the run, that's probably his biggest killer, and bullied in one-on-ones. If he gets washed up versus the run, that's not going to be good. And it's going to be a big evaluation over the next 2 weeks, because you'll see when they go to the backups how much of a difference. Now, of course, when Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, A'Shawn Robinson, and Raheem Nunez-Roches are on the field, you'll see a difference between those guys and the backups, but you don't want it to be 110% noticeable to be like, oh my God, we need backup defensive lineman stat. You don't want it to be like the offensive line where it's Wyatt Davis giving up a sack or Corey Cunningham or whatever the situation may be. We don't want the defensive linemen giving up 30, 40-yard runs. And that really didn't happen against the Detroit Lions because they still had their own offensive line issues. But we always have to trace it back to the film room and how these guys play on an individual evaluation basis. So, once again, how can he win? Override competition in 1v1s, defend the run well, get out and make plays. How can he lose? Avoid getting washed up. He gets washed up versus the run and bullied in one-on-one. Sorry, I had a typo in my notes there. But my prediction for Brandin Bryant is that he's going to get cut by the New York Giants. I don't see him staying on the roster. I don't really justify him staying on the roster. Or it's tough for the practice squad because you could get a guy like Donovan Jeter or Kevin Atkins or somebody to go on there. But Ryder Anderson, if he does come back from this injury, I think could be a valuable piece and better than Brandin Bryant in a couple of different areas. DJ Davidson, you could say the same thing about, who hopefully is making progress in his rehab. So Brandin Bryant, I think he was just brought in as a camp body once A'Shawn and DJ Davidson went on the PUP list. We'll see what happens. Like, comment, subscribe to all the good stuff. Turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool.